Welcome back, everyone. What an excellent and inspiring session that was with 4 industry experts from our region. Now, we move on to the next session, for which we have 2 experts from the DHL Global Forwarding team, Mr. Fabio Weiss, who's the regional head for air freight, and Ms. Sue Donoghue, who's the CEO for the Arab cluster, joining us from the UAE. We have Mr. Knut Alika joining us from a beautiful summer home in the Baltic Sea from McKinsey. He's a partner there, and he will be moderating this session with both Fabio and Sue. So I wish you all a very successful session. Thank you, Knut. You can take over.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, and thanks a lot for having us for this fireside chat. And thanks a lot also to Sue and to Fabio for joining me and for our discussion on what is happening in the global freight forwarding industry. So last year has been a very special year, right? So we had the global pandemic. We still have the global pandemic. We had ups and downs. All of us had challenges, had to change the workplace, and so on and so on. So this is basically a bit what we want to talk about. We will also look a little bit into the future of freight forwarding and what would be better to have the leader in global freight forwarding with us, DHL. So thanks a lot again, Sue and Fabio, for joining us for this conversation. So maybe let's start indeed with the pandemic. And here, if you look back, the last year, the last couple of months, what did really change for DHL for freight forwarding? Maybe Sue, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it's safe to say everything changed. I mean, we had the global impact with the government restricted and imposed lockdowns that came over us in waves. We had very quickly to change from office-based working to remote working. Supply chains were impacted severely as a result of all of these restrictions. And so demand went up, especially for the COVID response items where capacity went down. I think we also had the border closures and the regulations that we had to adjust to very, very quickly. I think Fabio can probably elaborate on that.
Yes, so thanks Knut, thanks Sue, and also a pleasure to be here and talk to you. So like Sue said, I think it's been a situation, or is a situation, that we have not experienced in the history, I think, of freight forwarding of this scale. The disruption comes and goes, like Sue mentioned, in waves. So there is restrictions that are imposed by governments due to the pandemic. There is the reshuffle of the capacity as a result, where capacity is deployed in markets where it's most needed to respond to the pandemic. And this has created a complete new dynamic, I think, in the industry, which is very difficult to tackle, but everyone, I think, is jointly working on it. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge has really been these restrictions that have been imposed. Absolutely.
And I think trying to keep the operation going with the frontline, keeping the frontline workers at work, but maintaining their safety has been paramount as well. So it's taken a lot of adaptation, but we're happy to say that we are protecting our teams.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So as you said, everything changed, right? And Fabio, to your point, this is something that we did not experience in history. So it's everyone talks about the black swan, right? It's an event that we have never seen before. And we need to make sure that our systems are agile, right? So the systems are able to react to this. So as you mentioned, reshuffling the capacity so to where it is needed. So if we now look into the future, and clearly we all hope that we will not have the next pandemic around the corner, but things might happen, right? So there might be the next disruption. And so here, how do you ensure that your system is resilient? In terms of a way that you set up the system and then you operate the system. So Fabio, maybe you want to talk us through that.
Yeah, so I think thanks. I think even the situation we've been in, or we're still in, I think the resilience of the supply chain, around the world, it has been severely impacted. But, when we look at the way things operate or played out, it actually has proven that it works, right? Even it has been untested to a certain extent. You can see that, very quickly when the pandemic started, there was cargo flowing from Europe, US into Asia to tackle the pandemic there. Afterwards, it obviously changed a little bit for the other way around. And now today, when the first focus was really on supplying PPE or protective personal equipment, face masks, gloves, sanitizers to the affected countries, it has now shifted, into more vaccine distribution, etc. So that's more the high level or the high priority items. But in the meantime as well, food supplies, right, have been continuously working. I think it changed from also, we are working now from home, right? Everyone needs a laptop. There is kids doing homeschooling, right? So instead of just maybe a household having one laptop at the time, now you need to have 3, 4 or tablets, right? And I think this all happened within the last 12 months, where all this equipment has been supplied around the world. So showing that actually the supply chains have been operating, heavily impacted, of course, but it has been working. So I think even at the scale that we experienced, the supply chains are working. It needs certain flexibility. It needs a lot of planning, and it needs a lot of people, like Sue is saying, frontline people that are out there, working away day and night to make sure that we keep the world moving and connected.
Very good, very good. And is there any kind of specific importance of, let's say, information or the digital systems or IT systems to make sure that supply chains work, as you mentioned?
Yeah. So Sue, I think absolutely. We have seen, Knut, when during this pandemic, the connectivity between again our staff and customer has been absolutely crucial. And I think Sue, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on the digital frontier. What has been there?
Definitely. I think that the need to have the fact that we've all been forced into a predominantly virtual environment now, and also the need to make supply chains as contactless as possible, has put a serious demand on digital systems and the advancement of the digitalization technologies that we see, and also the more innovative solutions. I mean, it's critical to have, for example, not having physical invoices, having e-billing, having electronic systems that enable you to work from home and not have to have lots of different bits of paper that have various touch points. So I think we see, if you look at your calendars on a daily basis, all the Zoom meetings you have, or the Skype meetings, this digitalization, this track and trace, knowing where things are, as Fabio alluded to, planning is absolutely key to keeping the supply chains moving now. Having this communicating across the world. It's not just, you can't look at it as a silo now. You have to try and predict what the next demand is. Where do we need to be? What do we need to do? What's the next solution we need to provide? How can we interact with our customers without doing the face-to-face meetings? How do you launch tenders without doing the physical, put a big bid together? What can we do to make this, to push this forward? DHL have a very, digitalization is key to the strategy that was launched. So I think, and we see this more and more, engaging with customers, they want to have the digital platforms. So, using WhatsApp more. We're all linked to our phones so much now, to our laptops, to the tablets. The kids are on digital schooling. So I think, yeah, digitalization it was always at the forefront, but even more so now. It's paramount to keeping things moving.
And like we in other sectors, one said that, hey, this whole pandemic did boost the digitization significantly, right? So we basically had to implement new ideas in weeks or months that before would have taken years, right? Is that a similar development you see in DHL or in the freight forwarding industry, that you have also this boost?
Yeah, Knut, absolutely. This is it has fast-tracked the digital agenda, right? So I think the digital targets we had by 2025 have been just fast-tracked enormously. Because again, right, with the social distancing and keeping people connected, you know, who would have thought, or I remember discussions allowing people to work from home, right, as a very simple example. Before the pandemic, it was like, are people going to be effective? Are they going to work from home? Are they going to achieve their targets? Are they going to do what they're supposed to do? And the pandemic left no choice. And we have actually seen, you know, that productivity even went up in some cases, because, you know, you don't have to travel to the work, right? You sometimes don't get distracted, you know, with people in the office coming chit chat at your desk. Yeah. So I think it has been absolutely in logistics industry where, yes, we can certainly say it's been a huge boost for the digitalization.
Very good. There's one topic that I'm always interested in, is kind of the importance of supply chain and logistics. And if you look into companies, into shipping companies, that often it's kind of a cost center, right? And what I see over the last year is that the pandemic did boost the importance. Out of a sudden, everyone saw that, oh, we rely on this global networks, right? Someone needs to transport, someone needs to handle, someone needs to kind of do the job to get things from A to B. Is that also something that you see with your customers, that the perceived importance of supply chain and logistics is increasing?
Yes, definitely. And it comes back to the planning. It comes back to the supply and demand. Where do they have most of the supply from? Where do they ship to? They need to know that the resilience is there, and they can still achieve what they need to do to meet the commitments to their customers, the same as we do with ours. So I think it's really, really important, and even more so now, when you look at the capacity restrictions, when you look at the last minute changes, the unpredictability of the market as it is at the moment. As much information as you can gather, as much information as you can share, is the power that you need to keep the supply chains moving.
I think also, maybe just to add here, the transport is just the middle part, right? But if you're a customer you're selling products, right, the sourcing is key as well. So your suppliers, so it starts with the suppliers as well, you know, because you also showed during the pandemic that suppliers, you know, if a country shuts down and you have all your suppliers located in that area, right, the impact it has to your supply chain is not just a transport element, but it's really getting actually the goods out of the factory. And I think there's been what we have seen as well, you know, a simple example, again, I think everyone can relate to the face masks. Right, how expensive face masks were 12 months ago, because everything had to be flown around the world in charters for face masks, where usually the value is not very high, but then sold in the stores, probably in everyone's country, for a really high sum, right, because of the demand. And I think we have seen it across multiple industries, that it's not just a transport element, but the sourcing, suppliers, or even then selling in certain markets, right, where shops are not open, factories are closed. So it has really been an impact again, you know, that get people thinking across different industries. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I guess a lot of the audience are clearly interested, because they're probably users of DHL services. They're interested in, you mentioned that rates went up, very clear. We had capacity constraints, right? So clearly then rates are up. Is there anything, and I don't know whether you can comment on this, is there any way to predict the shift in freight rates? Kind of, will it further increase? Will it go down? Will it stay? So to the extent you can comment maybe you, Sue, you wanna start.
Yeah, I don't think the market's going to stabilize, and I don't think we're going to see any significant reductions for the rest of this year. We're seeing constraints continue. We're seeing equipment imbalance. We're seeing routes changing, ports being left out of sailing schedules now. The lack of equipment in the right places because of the blank sailings that have happened. So I think there's certain trade lanes that are being impacted more than others, but it really is expect the unexpected. We know that it's gonna, normally we could say it would stabilize sometime soon, but I can't see this happening, certainly on an ocean freight perspective for the rest of this year. Fabio can comment on air freight.
Yeah, so air freight, the product no one wants to use because it's so expensive, right? So a similar story for us. So usually the air freight capacity is obviously driven by like, let's say 60-70% by the passenger aircraft capacity supplied in the market, right? As we know, travel is very limited at the moment, so capacity remains extremely tight. There is some freighters operating, more freighters came into the market, but still there is a big gap between the capacity pre-pandemic versus what's now. Because of the challenges we have in the ocean freight world with the lack of equipment or lack position in different markets, there is more and more conversion as well from ocean freight to air freight, adding additional constraints as well. And I think just to wrap this up, so I think the same, a similar story, right? So the freight rates, they have somewhat stabilized, I think, in air freight, right, at a high level compared to pre-pandemic. There is obviously usually in air freight, peak season starts in the last quarter, so around September till December, when the manufacturing kicks off for the year-end volumes. So that's still to be seen what's happening then. But yeah, I think it really is like a crystal ball, right? Depending what's happening with the pandemic. We have seen India, where unfortunately, the cases have gone up and with some additional issues. So it's really depending what the pandemic, how we're going to fight it, and how quickly we get back to normal, and people in the air as well to travel. Yeah.
Thank you. So we have the first question from the Q&A tool. Let me quickly ask this to both of you. So do you think governments and private sectors should sorry, it was moving here. Should basically reduce some of the regulations and restrictions to have better logistics service processes?
I think you have to balance it up. I mean, yet if you look at it purely from a logistics standpoint, it would help, but you have to bear in mind the safety as well. Safety is number one. So it has to work. Yes, economies need to recover, but safety of people and the restrictions are there for a reason, and we have to remember that, and we have to remember that we have to fight this, and there has to be that balance, I believe.
Yeah,
I think if you take maybe the pandemic aside, right, I think there is still quite a long way to go in certain countries, especially here, Middle East, the Africa region, obviously, where the processes of doing business and running cross-border supply chains is quite labor and document intensive. So there is big focus, in some Gulf countries, also in African countries, with unions formed to improve those processes, right? And I think Africa, for example, the growth engine over the next years, right, with huge potential. And I think there is a lot of efforts being done by governments, by organizations, shippers, by logistics companies partnering up to improve those processes. So to really have this global supply chain expanding and continue. So I think that's we're on a good way, but still some work to be done.
Okay. So I have another question, which is going into digitization. So do you see at DHL basically a shift from, let's say, more physical supply chain or physical shops, as it was asked in the questions, to more investing into digitizing the overall system? I think both of you commented already on this, but maybe to to ask this question again. Is there more a shift into investing in digital?
Yeah. Maybe I'll start off, Sue, if you don't mind, right? Again, right, digital, absolute key, I think, for the supply chain and logistics industry. We are so global now. It's not going to change, you know, even with the pandemic. Not, if anything, it accelerates the development. You know, with our strategy, and just to quote it here, you know, delivering excellence in a digital world. That's our 2025 digital strategy. You know, for our customers' experience, employee experience, also not to forget, and then also our partners, right? So I think it's quite important that we continue to invest in that. And it's really the investment and the development. You know, we have innovation centers around the world where people, scientists, where experts solely focusing on bringing the next development in digital to the market. So we're heavily invested in making sure, yeah, we continue on this path, right? And I think another item that Sue and myself recently studied on, you know, blockchain, for example, right? That's another digital tool that will possibly, you know, help the logistics industry in a big way as well. Yeah.
No, definitely. And I think everybody saw the increase in online shopping, which is also going to impact the digital digitization as well, shall we say?
Yeah. One topic that also came up during the pandemic and was not expected by many in the beginning is the whole topic of sustainability. We had sustainability discussions already before, so it's not a new topic, very, very clear. But maybe you can comment a bit on what are trends? What is DHL doing? I know that it's probably worth then to talk about this for like 2 days, but maybe a kind of a short statement. What is the most important topics you are pushing in terms of sustainability?
So yeah, we've launched our sustainability agenda. And we have a clear roadmap to do this, and are partnering with companies to ensure that we meet these targets. We have a target to be carbon free by 2050, and we will invest 7 billion into sustainable solutions by 2030. We've already offset the carbon emissions on our LCL services. So there's lots of different things that we're looking at in terms of sustainability. It is key to us, being one of the biggest forwarders in the world. It is very key. This sustainability agenda is very, very key to the business and the way that we operate and the solutions that we're looking to provide now.
I think, Knut, also you see the aircraft in my background, my virtual background, right? So I think, you know, the airplane's a big part, and the DHL as well. We have one of the largest fleets of cargo aircraft, right? So not only that we're looking at, you know, at renewable fuel sources, but also with our partners and subcontractors, right? It's important that when we negotiate or procure services or partnerships, that this is always part of our agenda as well, the sustainability. And also our customers, they can actually receive reports on what their CO2 emission footprint is for their supply chain as well. So it helps to create visibility as well for them, because many of our customers have corporate targets as well to achieve a sustainable supply chain. So it's hand in hand, you know, we get pushed from the customers, we are able to help the customers. And I think we all have the same goal, right? To be a little bit more, create a more healthier planet for future generations as well.
Definitely.
Yes. There's one question popping up here. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges for the logistics industry, specifically in Saudi Arabia?
I leave that to Sue as the expert.
I think there's been a lot of focus in Saudi on simplifying logistics, in making customs more accessible. Customs went digital, but there's still some challenges. We still have, we see SABA being a big challenge at the moment, a new certification that was brought in But we've got solutions where we provide solutions on this. So I think the borders we've had a lot of border restrictions that have they've changed very quickly, so we've had to adapt. We've had transportation restrictions that have come into play very quickly. So I think the changing regulations happen sometimes without a lot of warning. So you have to have that adaptability there. But I have to say, the simplification is coming, and there is a lot of work being done by the Saudi government now to make Saudi the new hub for the Middle East. So there's a lot of focus on the strategy. There's a lot of work being done with companies and to encourage companies to set up there and to have headquarters there that they believe will bring Saudi into a logistics hub for the Middle East. And it's got a lot of positives with Jeddah and the routings that come in to there. So I think it can also be a gateway to Africa as well, which is another thing that's being looked at. So there's a lot of work being done. It's a lot more. It's changed a lot over recent years, I would say.
Thanks a lot, Sue. Very helpful. There's one more question that you mentioned this whole topic of blockchain. Maybe it fits into here. So we are in a digital world, and still we have a lot of physical documents going on, right? Is there any kind of time soon where we are digitizing all of this for all the requirements when we ship our products?
Yeah, maybe I start off with this one. I think there has been, from IATA, there has been a program running, Cargo 2000, for many years, right, to remove documents from the flow, for example, for air freight, right? And then obviously ocean freight with the bill of lading, that's also something, that's very embedded in people's processes or brains, right? That, with a document you can go and collect the container, but also there now, it is actually shipping lines introducing blockchain solutions where this is possible already then to cut out the paperwork from the process, right? And so this will absolutely evolve and will come our way, hopefully rather soon than later, because I don't know the numbers exactly how many trees we actually ship around the world by producing paper, but it must be a lot. It must be a lot. So it's definitely an area for huge growth and exploitation, the blockchain option. Yeah.
Excellent. So let me thank you for this super discussion we had over the last half hour. So Sue, thanks a lot for your insights. Fabio, thanks a lot for your insights and for your comments, and for openly sharing your opinions on the region, freight rates, and digital and sustainability. Enjoyed it a lot. And now over to Udit.
Thank you so much, Knut, for asking some very pertinent questions there, and to Fabio and Sue for some excellent insights into how DHL has overcome a lot of these issues that we have faced over the last 15 months or so, and look into the future that you've given us. Thank you, everyone. Wish you a very happy afternoon and evening. And for our guests, we will be taking a networking break now for 20 minutes. So we will be back at 1:10. In the meantime, you're welcome to visit the networking lounge area and connect with our very many networking partners there. Just feel free to sit on any of the open seats that you see on your screen, and you'll be able to speak to a representative from those networking partners. Thank you very much once again, all three of you, and thank you once again to our audience as well. We will see you back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.